Don Blaze had traded in his life of shadowy missions, covert operations, and high-stakes espionage for something simpler, the art of cooking. It was a stark contrast to his former life as a top CIA operative, but now he found peace in the meticulous preparation of gourmet meals, each dish a small masterpiece. Don's new sanctuary was his high-rise condo, perched on the 45th floor of a sleek glass tower in the heart of the city. The sprawling metropolis stretched out beneath him like a living, breathing organism, its lights twinkling in the twilight as the sun dipped below the horizon. The condo was a blend of modern minimalism and warm, earthy tones. The open-plan kitchen was the heart of the space, with state-of-the-art appliances, marble countertops, and a massive island where Don spent most of his time, crafting meals that were as much about art as sustenance. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed a breathtaking view of the city skyline, and in the distance, the faint outline of mountains could be seen, their peaks kissed by the last light of day. It was a peaceful existence, a life Don had chosen to escape the chaos of his past. Tonight, the condo was filled with the rich aroma of seared lamb, rosemary, and garlic. Don moved with practiced precision, plating the dish with a flourish. The lamb, tender and pink, was arranged on a bed of roasted vegetables, with a drizzle of red wine reduction adding the final touch. He took a step back, admiring his work, and smiled, a rare expression for a man whose life had been shaped by danger and deception. But as he sat down to enjoy his meal, the tranquility was shattered by the sharp ring of his phone. Don's heart sank as he recognized the number, one he hadn't seen in years. He let it ring twice more before answering. "Blaze," he said, his voice calm but with a hard edge. "Don, it's Langston," the voice on the other end replied. "I know you're out, but I need you back for one last job." Don closed his eyes, the weight of the request settling on him. Langston was his old handler, a man who had seen him through some of the darkest moments of his career. If he was calling, it meant something serious, something that couldn't be handled by anyone else. "I'm not that guy anymore," Don said quietly, though he knew it was a lie. The instincts never left you, no matter how much you tried to bury them. "Please, Don, it's not just about the mission. There's someone involved, someone you'll want to meet." Don hesitated. The life he had now was a far cry from the one he left behind. But there was a part of him that missed the thrill, the sense of purpose that came with being in the field. And Langston knew exactly how to get to him. "Where and when?" Don asked, his decision made. The next day, Don found himself in a dimly lit bar on the edge of the city's financial district. It was a place where deals were made in the shadows, and where Don felt a familiar tension in the air. He sat at a corner table, nursing a glass of bourbon, when she walked in. She was striking, tall and elegant, with bronze skin that seemed to glow in the low light. Her dark hair cascaded in waves over her shoulders, and her eyes were a deep, soulful brown that seemed to hold secrets of their own. She moved with a grace that immediately caught Don's attention, and when she approached his table, he felt a jolt of recognition. "You must be Don," she said, her voice smooth and confident. "Langston told me about you." "And you are?" Don asked, though he already knew. This was the person Langston had mentioned, the one who would pull him back into the world he had left behind. "Jill," she replied, extending a hand. "I'm the reason you're here." Don shook her hand, feeling a spark of connection that he hadn't expected. Jill sat down across from him, her expression serious. "I need your help, Don," she said. "I'm in trouble, and I don't know who else to turn to." As she explained her situation, a tangled web of international intrigue, corrupt officials, and dangerous enemies, Don felt the old fire ignite within him. This was what he had been trained for, what he was born to do. But it was more than just the mission that drew him in. It was Jill herself. There was something about her, something that made him want to protect her, to make her smile, and to see her safe. The days that followed were a whirlwind of action and suspense. Don and Jill worked together, navigating the treacherous waters of espionage and deception. They uncovered a plot that threatened not just Jill, but countless others. As they fought to unravel the conspiracy, Don found himself drawn to her in ways he hadn't expected. Jill was more than just a beautiful woman. She was intelligent, resourceful, and brave. She had a strength that matched Dawn's own, and as they faced danger together, their connection deepened. Dawn realized that he didn't just want to protect her. He wanted to be with her, to build a life together. In the end, they succeeded in their mission. The threat was neutralized, the conspirators brought to justice. But more importantly, Dawn found something he hadn't realized he was missing: love. Back in his condo, Dawn stood at the kitchen island, preparing a meal for two. Jill was in the living room, her laughter filling the space as she watched a comedy on TV. Dawn smiled, savoring the moment. The city lights twinkled outside the windows, but inside, everything was warm and perfect. As he plated the food, Dawn couldn't help but reflect on how his life had changed. He had been pulled back into the world of action, but it had been worth it, because it had led him to Jill. And now, he had something to fight for, something to protect. Dawn brought the plates to the table and Jill joined him, her eyes lighting up at the sight of the meal. She reached across the table, taking his hand in hers. "Thank you, Dawn," she said softly, "for everything." He squeezed her hand, feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with the food. "I should be thanking you," he replied. "You gave me a reason to come back." Jill smiled, a radiant expression that made Dawn's heart skip a beat. He knew in that moment that he would spend the rest of his life making sure she kept smiling, no matter what.